sometimes you're the bottleneck of the company. Sometimes you're the one impeding growth, and it's a blind spot. So how do you know that you are, the bottleneck of the company? Well, if you have to make a lot of the key decisions and things are held up until you make the decision, that's a good sign that you're the bottleneck. Another one would be that you're actually doing work like this client was. You're reviewing the work of others. And so more than 50% of his time was spent doing work. And so if you've ever seen the videos, I have the 5 levels of leadership, anti-leader, transactional leader, strategic leader, and exceptional leader, and compound leader. I've got some other videos around this that we could link to in just sharing with you that he was actually a transactional leader because he was spending most of his time doing work. And that, to me, is a very good sign that you're the bottleneck of the company.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Today, we're going to talk about being the bottleneck in your company. When I talk to leaders, CEOs of fast growth companies, many times they don't even realize that they're the bottleneck because they're showing up every day doing what they've done in the past. They're performing at a high level. They're adding value. They're doing a lot of the right things. But what they don't realize that is a blind spot that they are actually the bottleneck of the company. So in today's episode, I'm going to give you a little bit of a story, but I'm also going to help you understand how to let go and move forward and be the leader that your people want to follow and need to follow as you scale your business. Hi, my name is Gene Hammett. This is Grow Think Tank, and this is a solo episode. So you just got me today to talk to you about, some of the things that I see through my coaching of fast growth companies, mostly the founders and CEOs on the Inc5000. And we do leadership development, we do CEO coaching and manager coaching and all other types of coaching in between. And I want to share back with you a little bit of a story. I had a client. I won't mention his name specifically because I don't want him to feel any shame, and he didn't give me permission per se to say this exact thing. But I've got a lot of happy clients out there. But when this client recently made the Inc list, I say recently, about 4 years ago, he was about 4 million in revenue. And so doing really well. Team was about 20 people, and they were really performing at a high level. But what the CEO didn't realize was he was the bottleneck of the company. Now, this was all discovered in the sales conversation. And I say sales because, I'm not going to, beat around the bush and say this was just a quick call and it wasn't just a live, coaching experiment. This was actually before he paid me any money. So I've mentioned this to you guys before. I do some discovery calls or I do some enrollment calls and I do gift coaching. Those are very different. This was a call related to a Porsche leadership event we do once a year. And we won't explain what the event was, but he was responding to that. We got on the call and we got to know each other. And in this conversation, he said the words, I could add 3 more customers, but I don't know if I could add 10. Now, to me, that's a little bit of a red flag because I'm like, well, if you're scaling fast, you're already at 4 million, you probably want to keep growing. He said, absolutely. And I said, well, why couldn't you add 10 customers? And his answer will probably tell you why he's the bottleneck. They do some financial accounting stuff, and they are sending things to the IRS, and he's a CPA. This client, the CEO of the company, was reviewing the work product of his accountants. Anything that went to the IRS, they actually defend in an audit. And so they want to make sure it's as accurate as possible because it's a nightmare if it's not accurate. You get that. You want your taxes to be absolutely perfect if they can be, and pay the least amount of taxes you can probably. But in this case, he was reviewing the work. And inside the conversation, I started probing and I said, well, how do I know that this is a real problem? He goes, well, I have 14 reports on my desk right now, and it takes me somewhere between 2 to 3 hours a piece. And I said, well, I'm doing the math here. That's more than 50% of your time as the CEO of a fast growing company that you spend reviewing the work of others. He goes, yeah, absolutely. We got to make sure it's right. And I have 25 years experience. What he's really not saying is I can do it better and faster than anyone else in the team. So that's the reason I'm doing it. That's how I add value. And it's true. he does have the experience. He does have the ability and a keen eye to look for the things. But what we end up discovering was it could be given to someone else. Someone else can take that over because fast forward to today, he no longer reviews any of those. And there was a transition that we were able to get to really make this happen. But what I want to highlight for you is sometimes you're the bottleneck of the company. Sometimes you're the one impeding growth, and it's a blind spot. So how do you know that you are, the bottleneck of the company? Well, if you have to make a lot of the key decisions and things are held up until you make the decision, that's a good sign that you're the bottleneck. Another one would be that you're actually doing work like this client was. You're reviewing the work of others. And so more than 50% of his time was spent doing work. And so if you've ever seen the videos, I have the 5 levels of leadership, anti-leader, transactional leader, strategic leader, and exceptional leader and compound leader. And I've got some other videos around this that we could link to. And I'm just sharing with you that he was actually a transactional leader because he was spending most of his time doing work. And that, to me, is a very good sign that you're the bottleneck of the company. If you value yourself in how you show up for meetings and how you make decisions and how you do the work, you're most likely the bottleneck of the company. In order for you to break that pattern, you have to be able to step back from your business and look at it look at it 3 years in the future and say, well, where will I be 3 years in the future? Will I still be doing the work I'm doing? And for some of you, maybe that's true. But for most of you, you want to challenge yourself and say, well, I've got to empower others around me to do this kind of work so that I can do higher value work. There's many different tools I use inside the coaching conversations, but I'm just having a real talk with you about being the bottleneck of the company and how it impedes the growth of the business. I don't probably need to even tell you that if you want to grow faster and you are spending more than 50% of your time doing work, then you're not really playing at your highest level. So I will just assume that you get what I'm talking about. And if you're not sure, then we should probably have a chat. And I will give you the same treatment that I gave this CEO of helping him see what he can't see for himself. If you're curious about that, just go to gene@genehammett.com. That's my email. Tell me you've heard me on the podcast, and I'm willing to do it for free because you've heard it on the podcast. That's the signal. Otherwise, I would charge you for this conversation. And we dove into his business. I probed a few things, and we found something that was really standing in the way of growth. And that's exactly what I'm best at, actually, inside of all of the work I do. All that being said, if you think you're the bottleneck of the company and you want to let go of that, first, it starts with your mindset. It starts with you really reflecting on what is your mindset that currently has you at the bottleneck. And it's not very clear. Sometimes it's that blind spot that's really hard to know yourself. And so maybe today I've exposed a little bit of those questions or your thought process. But if you're really thinking about how you want to grow your business, you want to make sure that you spend more time at the higher levels of leadership, which would be strategic leader. But then the next level is that exceptional leader. Now, we could talk about strategic leader, but let's go ahead and jump to exceptional leaders. Exceptional leader spends 50% or more of their time developing the people around them. They're not doing the work. They're developing their confidence. They're developing their decision-making skills. They're developing their prioritization. They're developing maybe even some strategy or some other skills. And they're coaching people. They're really supporting them. They're doing things that don't look like work. They're not looking heads down in a spreadsheet. That's bottleneck type work. They're doing things like one-on-one meetings. They're doing things like having workshops or teaching people how to about the industry. All of those things are growing the people around them. Now, here's the key. Your people are important to the business. I know that, but they are also not, they are just to be cogs in a wheel. They want to grow. And so when you are the bottleneck of the company, you're actually kind of robbing them of that chance to grow, and you're not empowering them. Eventually you will burn out, because that's where I've seen this happen with so many people that would come to me inside the CEO role or founder role of a fast growth company is, I can't continue at this pace. I've got to change some things. And so I just wanted to highlight this little bit of a story and really help you understand that if you're the bottleneck of the company, that you can show up differently. And if you want a much more specific thing and you don't want to talk to me, I get it. Maybe you're still getting to know me and not sure about me, don't trust me yet, fine. We're doing some workshops. If you want to find out about the next workshop that will help you be the leader that you want to be and stop being the bottleneck of the company and truly be the CEO of that company. Because I could tell you story after story after story, but I'm going to give you the plan. I'm going to give you the step by step, and I'm going to expose some of the things that I couldn't get into today. And it's in a workshop. It's free. So all you'd have to do is go to coreelevation.com/workshop, and you will sign up for the next one. And they're all the same topic on this channel, this URL, if you will. And I'm here to help you be a better leader. I'm here to help you grow your company. I'm here to help you stop being the bottleneck and being, on the verge of burnout, and help you truly create more accountability, create a culture of execution and even a culture of ownership, and really develop others as leaders around them. You're empowering them. There's a lot of things inside this training. And so if you're curious about what that is, go to coreelevation.com/workshop. You'll find out the next one. You can sign up, then show up, and then apply what you learn, and so that you can get out of being the bottleneck of the company. My name is Gene Hammett. I'm so excited about you being here listening to this. And if you are enjoying this podcast, please let me know. You can send me an email, gene@genehammett.com, or you could send us a review on Spotify or Apple. It doesn't matter where you send it, but I'd love for you to send me an email. Let me know that you are enjoying this. And if there's any way I can help you, please let me know. When you think of growth and you think of leadership, think of Growth Think Tank. As always, think of courage. We'll see you next time.